Hey guys, thanks for coming back to the Danny Ruel channel. Now today, it's not going to be a cooking video. Today what I'm going to show you is how, instead of me getting a new oven, because I like my oven and I like the way it cooks, and I don't feel like spending the money to get a new oven, because this works very well. I'm going to show you how I'm going to refurbish and refresh the areas to make it look nice and look more fresh and new. And I'll show you how I do it, and I'll show you how it goes from little scuff marks and old like rust marks, and it's gonna make it look nice.
Here we can see the faded paint from years of cleaning with oven cleaner and other abrasives, and there's a rust mark, and that's another faded rust mark on the side. We're going to get rid of all of that. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab ourselves some masking tape and some old flyers from the supermarket. You don't have to pay for any of those old flyers from the supermarket. So you can use those old flyers from the supermarket to cover up all of the areas that you need to protect from the spray paint cans. So as you can see, I'm taping off all of the little cracks and crevices. You don't want paint getting on all your things. So you have to take your time and be meticulous and just tape up all around the areas that you don't want to get paint on. This process takes time. So you have to post up those little circulars that you get from the supermarket. You gotta get those circulars for free. So grab a handful of them if you got a paint job. So you don't have to pay for any type of drop cloth or anything. But for this job, you shall see later that I did pick up a couple of cheap drop cloths, plastic drop cloths from Home Depot to cover up even more. But I wanted to put the newspapers all over my cabinets, so I won't get any paint on any of that stuff. And you'll see later on in the video. But take your time doing this. Just take the time that it takes in order to protect all of the things that you want to protect from any excess paint that's going to come, or any of the excess stripper that you're going to use to get rid of the old paint. Now, I'm sorry I couldn't have the pictures of me putting the stripper on because I had some technical difficulties. But you'll see that the stripper works pretty well to get off the paint, the old years and years of paint on top of this stripper. You see the paint bubbling off from the stripper? It's taking off all of the paint. Now you're gonna see me scrape off all of that paint. So I'm gonna start with a flat surface. But first, we have to do something else to prepare the surface for paint. First, we have to scrape off all of that old paint that was on there. Try to get off as much of that old paint that's on there, especially when you're dealing with something that like a range that has mostly metal that you're gonna paint, because you want the paint to stick and you want the paint to be flat. Scrape off as much as you can so that it can be as clean as possible before you end up putting the paint on. Because first you have to put the primer, then you have to put the paint. But first you have to get rid of the paint, then you have to scuff up the area with sandpaper, clean it, and get it nice and ready for painting. Right now I have to add more stripper because the stripper didn't take off all of the paint. So I'm going to add a little bit more stripper on there in order to get off all of the paint without having to use sandpaper, and the sandpaper will get clogged up with paint. So it's best to take the paint off with the stripper first. You can see how much paint I got off with the stripper. Now, when sanding, you want most of the paint off so that the paint does not clog the sanding block. You just want to sand as much bare metal as you can in order to scuff up the area so that the paint can adhere to the painting surface. After sanding with this 280 grit sanding block, I'm going to take it up a notch and sand with the 1000 grit sandpaper. Just kind of smooth out the scuffs that the 280 grit sanding block made. It's better for paint. After the sanding process, you're going to have to clean off the area with isopropyl alcohol to prepare to paint. It removes all the grease. Now we're going to use some high heat primer, being that I'm painting over a range that uses gas, heat, and fire. The paint I'm using is high heat primer, and I'm going to be using high heat paint so that if anything, the paint can handle the heat that comes off of it. First coat, you want to lightly go back and forth. You don't want to overspray so that it won't start to drip. The paint will just lay flat. Do this process until all of your areas that you want to paint is covered. Then you're gonna have to wait 30 minutes for the primer to dry before you can put a second coat of primer. Once you put 2 coats down, this is what it's gonna look like. Nice and flat. So that you can, now the surface area is prepared to be painted. And we're gonna follow the same process with the colored paint. But because I'm using red and white, I'm gonna start on the top with the red, because it's going to splatter down to the bottom, and the bottom where the stove is white. The top and the bottom both sprayed, and we wait until it dries out. Let's look at the before and after. That's the before. All the scuffs and scrape marks. It's all before. This is the after. See how much better that looks? All refurbished. Check out my range. Nice and shiny. Damn near new looking. Now it's time to cook. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Sometimes I'm putting cooking videos out. Sometimes I'm showing home improvements. Thanks for watching.